They told you these tests would protect you, that they were routine, safe, and necessary. But what if I told you that some of the checkups most commonly recommended to people over 70 can quietly do more harm than good? Every year, millions of older adults line up for screenings believing they're taking control of their health. They sit in waiting rooms, fill out forms, lie still under machines, all with the hope of staying one step ahead of disease. Yet behind the white coats and glossy clinic brochures lies a truth the medical world rarely speaks aloud. That overtesting in seniors is one of the most underestimated causes of harm in modern medicine. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? That something meant to protect you could actually shorten your life. But that's what the science now shows. Research from major medical journals has revealed that up to 37% of all tests performed in adults over 70 lead to unnecessary procedures, anxiety, or complications that were never needed in the first place. Nearly all of them, 99% according to population data, have no idea it's happening. One of these routine tests, one that's heavily marketed as preventive, is now estimated to cause 5% of all new cancers in the United States. The same number of cases linked to daily alcohol use. You won't see that statistic on a clinic poster, and you won't hear it from the technician telling you to hold your breath as the machine hums. But the data is there, buried in the journals, whispering a warning. This is not about rejecting medicine. It's about using it wisely. The goal is not to avoid all tests but to understand which ones truly matter, and which ones quietly steal your peace, your strength, or your years. So let's uncover the 5 health checkups that may harm more than help once you're past 70. The truth might surprise you. The first test on our list sounds almost harmless. A quick scan, no needles, no pain, and you walk away feeling responsible. The bone density scan, also known as the DEXA scan, has become almost a ritual for women entering their 70s. It measures how strong your bones are and predicts fracture risk. But what most seniors don't realize is that after 70, these scans almost always show low bone density, even when the person is perfectly healthy. Bone loss is not a disease. It's a natural process, as ordinary as wrinkles or gray hair. Yet once that number flashes on the screen, it can trigger a cascade of unnecessary treatments. Doctors, following outdated guidelines or defensive habits, often prescribe medications called bisphosphonates to strengthen bones. These drugs can help in severe osteoporosis but are often prescribed for mild cases or even normal age-related thinning. Their side effects can be cruel. Some patients develop a condition known as osteonecrosis of the jaw, where bone tissue literally begins to die. Others suffer chronic acid reflux, inflammation of the esophagus, or brittle bones that fracture in strange ways. Studies published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed over 1,200 women above 70 and found that treating mild bone loss with these drugs reduced fracture risk by less than 0.5% after 5 years. The benefit was almost invisible, while side effects were common. Consider Rose, a 76-year-old retired piano teacher who was referred for a DEXA scan during her annual checkup. She had never broken a bone, never fallen, and walked daily. Her skin came back showing osteopenia, a mild reduction in bone density. Her doctor immediately started her on alendronate, a bisphosphonate. Within months, Rose developed severe jaw pain and acid reflux so intense she could barely eat. When she came to us, she was pale, discouraged, and terrified that her bones were crumbling. We stopped the medication and shifted the focus from numbers to strength. Rose began daily balance exercises, light resistance training, and a calcium-rich diet with leafy greens and sardines. We corrected a mild vitamin D deficiency. A year later, she hadn't fractured anything. Her legs were stronger, her balance better, and she had returned to performing piano recitals. What healed her wasn't a pill. It was movement, sunlight, and nourishment. Science backs this up. A 2022 study in the journal Osteoporosis International found that weight-bearing exercise and vitamin D optimization reduce fracture risk by over 20% in older adults, without drugs. The lesson is simple. For people past 70 who are mobile and not breaking bones, lifestyle changes often outperform medications. The scan may make you feel proactive, but sometimes all it does is make you afraid of aging itself. If fear is what the DEXA scan feeds, confusion is what the next test breeds. The brain MRI. The moment an older person forgets a name or misplaces their keys, a thought flashes. Is this dementia? It's a terrifying feeling, and doctors, wanting to reassure or rule out the worst, often order an MRI. It sounds logical. But here's the problem. For most seniors, the results mean almost nothing. MRIs show the structure of the brain, not how it functions. And in older adults, almost everyone has abnormalities. Tiny white spots, areas of shrinkage, minor vascular changes. George panicked. He withdrew from driving, stopped attending church, and spiraled into anxiety. Months later, after a simple cognitive screening, we found his memory was entirely normal for his age. His forgetfulness was caused by stress and dehydration, not disease. Once he understood this, his confidence returned, and so did his life. Unless there are serious symptoms, seizures, rapid personality change, or sudden functional decline, an MRI rarely improves outcomes in mild memory loss. A simple cognitive test on paper or a conversation about sleep, hydration, and mental activity often provides far more insight. Scans can reveal pictures, but they can measure spirit. And it is spirit, the will to stay sharp and engaged, that protects the brain better than any magnet ever could. If the MRI is a magnet for fear, the next test is a treadmill for trouble. The cardiac stress test. Picture this: an older man walking on a treadmill while wires trace his heartbeat. It looks reassuring, scientific, even heroic. But after 70, this common test often backfires. The purpose of a stress test is to detect blockages in the heart's arteries. But in seniors without clear symptoms, no chest pain, no shortness of breath, the false positive rate can reach 40%. That means nearly half of those told they have a problem actually don't. Yet they're sent for further testing, angiograms, stent placements, even bypass surgery, procedures that carry real risks. A landmark 2017 study in JAMA Cardiology found that over half of all stents placed after stress test referrals were unnecessary. Those patients gained no improvement in lifespan or quality of life but suffered higher rates of bleeding, kidney damage, and hospitalization. The irony? Their hearts were fine. Raymond, 75, a retired postman, experienced this firsthand. Fit, active, but occasionally tired after climbing hills, he mentioned his fatigue to his doctor. A stress test was ordered, just to be safe. The results were unclear, so he was sent for a cardiac catheterization. A small narrowing was found, something many healthy seniors have. A stent was placed. That night, Raymond developed kidney problems from the contrast dye. He spent 6 days in the hospital and months in recovery. His fatigue never improved because it wasn't a heart problem to begin with. He was simply dehydrated. After 70, if you're not experiencing classic cardiac symptoms like chest pain on exertion or breathlessness with mild activity, a stress test is rarely useful. Safer first steps include a resting EKG or a coronary calcium scan, which uses minimal radiation and gives a clearer picture of plaque buildup. Remember, not every twinge needs technology. Sometimes the most powerful diagnostic tool is still a careful conversation. If the stress tests can lead you to surgery you didn't need, the next tests can lead you straight into the hospital. The colonoscopy. For decades, it's been called the gold standard of cancer prevention. And for good reason. In younger adults, it can save lives. But after 70, the gold starts to tarnish. The procedure's risks rise sharply with age. All the benefits diminish. The preparation alone, harsh laxatives and dehydration, can cause dizziness, electrolyte imbalances, or kidney injury. The sedation used during the procedure increases the risk of confusion and memory loss afterward. And the procedure itself carries small but serious dangers: bleeding, perforation, infection, or even cardiac arrhythmia. In a massive 2019 study of over 1.3 million Medicare patients, researchers found that for every 1,000 colonoscopies done in people over 75, Only 2 lives were saved, but 20 or more people suffered serious complications. That's a 10-to-1 risk-to-benefit ratio. Even when small polyps are found, they're often harmless, slow-growing, or so-called incidental findings that would never have caused harm. Removing them can sometimes do more damage than leaving them alone. Dana, a 73-year-old baker, learned this painfully. She had no symptoms, no family history of colon cancer, and had already had 2 normal colonoscopies earlier in life. Her new doctor insisted on another, for safety. During the procedure, a small polyp was removed. That night, Dana woke with unbearable pain and fainted. At the hospital, she was diagnosed with a bowel perforation, a tear in the colon wall. 9 days later, she left the hospital weaker, thinner, and deeply shaken. There was no reason she needed that test. None. Guidelines from the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force now recommend stopping routine colon cancer screening at age 75, and for many, even earlier. For healthy older adults who still wish to screen, stool-based tests like the FIT test are safer, easier, and can be done at home without sedation or preparation. They detect most cancers effectively. The key is not refusing all screening, but choosing wisely. Because sometimes, the safest path forward is the one that requires the least intervention. And now, we arrive at the most dangerous test of all. The one that has become a symbol of preventive medicine and privilege, the full-body CT scan. Marketed as an executive health measure, it promises early detection of hidden cancers or aneurysms. But behind the sleek advertisements lies a darker story. Each full-body CT scan exposes you to about 10 to 20 millisieverts of ionizing radiation, the equivalent of roughly 500 chest X-rays. Ionizing radiation damages DNA. Over time, repeated exposure increases the risk of cancer. In fact, according to recent modeling studies, CT scans may now be responsible for up to 5% of all new cancers in the United States each year. That's the same risk contribution as daily alcohol consumption. These scans don't just expose you to radiation. They expose you to fear. They find incidentalomas, small nodules, cysts, or spots that mean nothing. But once seen, they trigger alarm. Doctors order more scans, more biopsies, more surgeries. And every step carries risk. Marcus, an 80-year-old retired martial arts instructor, learned this the hard way. He felt perfectly healthy but wanted reassurance. His full-body scan showed a tiny lung nodule 3 millimeters across. He was referred to an oncologist, then sent for a PET scan, then an EDO biopsy. The biopsy collapsed part of his lung. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. The nodule was benign. The entire chain of suffering began with a test that was never needed. The American College of Radiology and the Food and Drug Administration both warn against full-body CT scans for screening in asymptomatic adults. There's no evidence they prolong life, and significant evidence they cause harm. Each scan carries a small but real risk of inducing cancer later in life, and that risk compounds with every additional exposure. If you have symptoms like unexplained weight loss, coughing up blood, or visible swelling, targeted imaging is appropriate. But scanning your entire body without cause is like searching for treasure with a landmine detector. You may find something, but you're more likely to get hurt. When you put all these tests together, a pattern emerges. It's called overdiagnosis. Detecting problems that would never have harmed you, then treating them anyway. It's one of the silent epidemics of modern medicine. Overdiagnosis leads to overtreatment, anxiety, and unnecessary interventions. It's the paradox of progress. The more advanced our technology becomes, the easier it is to mistake normal variation for disease. We've made health measurable, but in doing so, we've made aging pathological. Scientific reviews from journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and the BMJ describe overdiagnosis as a global issue. Cancer screening in older adults, for example, often finds indolent lesions that grow so slowly they never cause symptoms. In women over 74, more than 30% of screen-detected breast cancers are now believed to be overdiagnosed. Similar numbers exist for prostate and thyroid cancers. We're treating diseases that were never destined to hurt anyone, but in the process, we're causing real harm. So what should you do instead? First, always ask your doctor, what happens if we find something? If the answer isn't clear, or if the treatment would be risky, reconsider the tests. Second, remember that the most powerful predictors of longevity after 70 aren't test results, they're lifestyle habits. Exercise, balanced nutrition, maintaining friendships, managing sleep, and minimizing medications when possible all have stronger evidence for prolonging life than any screening test. Third, understand that not testing is not neglect. It's wisdom. Medicine is not a contest to see who can find the most problems. It's an art of knowing which problems to leave alone. Aging is not a disease. It's a story, and like any good story, it deserves to unfold naturally. The goal is not to chase immortality but to preserve vitality, clarity, and peace. The tests we've discussed, the bone density scan, the brain MRI, the stress tests, the colonoscopy, and the full-body CT, can each be life-saving when used in the right circumstances. But when used blindly, they can become traps. So before you agree to your next test, pause and ask, am I being checked because something's wrong, or because I'm afraid something might be? Am I doing this to add years to my life, or simply to quiet my anxiety for a moment? The right answer can change everything. Modern medicine has given us tools of incredible power, but power without discernment can harm. The real art of health after 70 is restraint, the courage to say no when no is wiser than yes. The more we learn about the body, the more we realize that sometimes doing less is not neglect, it's mastery. To everyone watching, take this to heart. Listen to your body. Stay active, eat well, move often, sleep deeply, and love without reservation. Those are the real screenings, the daily habits that tell you how your body is doing. Not a number on a scan, not a shadow on a screen. Have you or someone you know ever gone through a test or treatment that turned out unnecessary or harmful? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might save someone else from repeating it. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the most powerful act of care is choosing not to be overcared for. Because in the end, real prevention doesn't come from machines. It comes from understanding. The understanding that living wisely is far better than living fearfully. And that after 70, health is no longer about finding every hidden flaw. It's about finding balance, peace, and the freedom to live each day without unnecessary worry. The fewer tests you don't need, the more life you have left to live.